Welcome to our Bourbon with Pete Johnson edition of Sunday Night Football with Bengal Jim and Friends. Good evening, guys. James, it's good to see you back, buddy.
I'm back, not living like the Amish. I have internet connection here. It's good to be back. I had all intentions to join you from upstate New York last week, but the internet did not cooperate. So I missed Jamie's background and his infatuation with the guest last week and all that good stuff. Oh, there it is.
There it is.
But no, it's good to be back. I got my Bengal Jim lookalike glasses on. Those will be available in the store in the next couple weeks. You can get those. But no, it's good to be back.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. So, guys, this is crazy. So that the draft night episode that we had about 2,000 viewers for our virtual draft night. Obviously, couldn't hang out with everybody. We did a virtual draft. 2,000 viewers. You believe it or not, this is our 10th episode, guys. Pete Johnson will be our 10th episode of the show. Pretty cool. And a special occasion. And we'll get Pete on here in a minute. But it is, again, hope everybody has a bottle of bourbon, wine. Scotch is acceptable. Whiskey is acceptable. Whatever you guys want. But it is bourbon night with Pete. So, Pete, I guarantee you we'll have a glass ready to roll when we bring him on here. So on the screen, everybody, we had a lot of new viewers right now. It looks like on YouTube and Facebook. So James, obviously from Brownsburg, Indiana, and Jamie this week, we're going to take a guess that Jamie is somewhere in Stoner, British Columbia. Columbia. So where do they grow in Stoner, British Columbia there, Jamie?
Ontario, but I'm sure I've got some friends from Stoner.
Brantford, Ontario is where Jamie's from. I know everybody's getting a kick out of us messing with Jamie on this every week, but so a couple quick updates. Just want to let everybody know the Ken Anderson jersey behind my left shoulder a couple weeks ago that we raised over $1,700 for. Brent Cole from Cincinnati, Ohio, lives in the Bridgetown area, won that jersey, and we got a text message from him or a direct message from him saying he'd really want to give that back to us, and let's continue that donation string to Ken Anderson. So here's how it's going to work. This jersey's back up for raffle. If you've already donated, you don't have to donate again. You're gonna maintain your name on that drawing, okay? But if you missed out and didn't get the opportunity to put your name in, now's the time. You'll go on Kenny Anderson Alliance, donate that minimum of $5. Hopefully $14 is really what we want to target moving forward. And make sure you hashtag Bengal Jim in the donation column. So I talked to Kevin, the head of the Alliance, Ken Anderson Alliance today. They're very excited about it. So maybe we can push over that 2,000 and maybe even exceed even bigger numbers there on that. So that's good stuff. We're happy. That was very cool by Brent Cole to do that. We appreciate it, Brent. Good stuff. And we're going to talk about, just address this up front, guys. The tailgate and all the stuff going on. We're going to have some conversation at the end of the show here today. But just to be very clear, I don't want to get into a bunch of conversation about the tailgate at the end of the show. So we'll talk about it now, just briefly. Guys, we're vetting all different kind of options. We know we can do this virtually. We've done it through the draft show. There's other things we're kind of looking into. So give us another week or two and probably a couple weeks. And we're going to come up with some sort of solution that we're going to have fun no matter what happens with football this coming season. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. All right, guys. Anything else before is Pete in the room yet? Or
he's here. James, you got a bourbon or no?
I have a green tea.
Okay.
Oh Lord.
Green tea.
So
what do you?
Sorry, go ahead.
No. What do you got there, Jamie?
Okay, so this is wine. This is Robert Mondavi Cabernet, but it's aged in bourbon barrels.
Close enough. That's closer than James.
Slightly, but yeah.
Hey, but cheers, guys. Cheers. Let's have a good time. So let's go ahead and pull Pete on. I'm excited to get Pete on.
Hey,
Mr. Pete, what's going on? I knew you'd have it. I knew you'd have some Woodford.
hey, do you have bourbon or you have Crown?
I got the bourbon. I got
There
the
we
bourbon.
go.
Let's toast it, buddy.
Here we go.
Everybody, pour you a glass. We're gonna cheers right now. We're gonna cheers with Pete Johnson before we get the show kicked off. Cheers, Mr.
All right,
Pete.
guys. The best of you and your family. Who they?
Yes, sir. Who dat? That's how you start a show. We need to do this every damn week.
Oh, hey, it's Groundhog Day for me. I do it every day.
All right, Pete. I know we want to respect your time, and I know we told you 20 minutes, so 8:25. We're going to have you off here, but
Oh man, you didn't even give me a time. Come on, man. He took bourbon early. He didn't he didn't wait on us.
Pete knows me. Pete knows me. So introduction for the folks that don't know: 1977 second round draft pick out of The Ohio State University, Mr. Pete Johnson. And let me tell you something. This dude was the real deal. He led the Bengals in rushing all 7 years of his career in Cincinnati, and he wasn't just a great rusher, guys.
And scoring.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting there, Pete. He was a great blocker out of the backfield, could catch the damn ball. He led the Bengals. He's still today the leading rushing touchdown leader with 64 touchdowns today. Just to let you know how big of a deal that is, the next closest to Pete is Rudy Johnson at 48. And that doesn't count Pete's 12 receiving touchdowns. So he's got 76 total touchdowns, 64. He was a touchdown machine, guys. And I know some of the younger folks with us missed the opportunity to watch Pete play at Ohio State and the Bengals, but the dude touched the ball, he scored, and it was crazy. He also holds, I didn't know this one, Pete, until the other day, but you also currently hold an NFL record for 3 consecutive games with at least 1 receiving touchdown, and 1 rushing touchdown. Dude, welcome to the show. This is awesome stuff. Our job here, Pete, is to let people know about our Bengal OGs and how damn good these teams were that you guys played on. And we're trying to help this younger generation understand exactly what you guys did for this organization.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, so we're going to kick off something here, Pete. I've been excited about this. So as you know, we've had Gary Burley on and Ross Browner and some of these guys. And Ken Anderson and Glenn Bush, knocking all these guys that you played with, mainly that 81 Super Bowl team, a lot of them. So I sent a few text messages out to your buddies, right? And I'm saying, give me something on Pete. Give me something on Pete we can talk about.
That's my crew.
Yep. All right. So I'm about to play something here, and I'm hoping this works here. But let's go ahead and play this real quick, and then we'll talk about this little bit. It's not a video of you playing ball, just FYI.
All right.
We want to – okay. Is this the clip you want to run?
That's it.
Petey Williams straw.
Get tickets to Leroy and Skilly. You damn right, because I think we need to go.
What, Petey? Are you crazy? Don't you know what they'll do to you?
I'm going to give them an opening that they will never forget. Damn right.
That's Gary Burley there all the way. GB.
Yeah. So who gave you that nickname?
Gary Burley.
So him and Eddie Edwards, I guess that they called Petey Wheatshaw. So Petey Wheatshaw was played by Rudy Moore. I mean, some of the older might remember Dolomite and all those guys. But when he told me that, man, I started cracking up. But that was Pete's nickname for the Bengals, Petey Wheatshaw. And I'm going to tell you, go Google some of these clips because I missed some of these things when I was younger. There's some good stuff on there with Petey Wheatshaw and Rudy Moore. So why did they call you that though, Pete? Was there a reason?
You got to ask Gary Burley. Hey, I plead the fifth.
I got it. All right, man. All right, Petey Wheatshaw. I will never look at you the same anymore, Pete. That's who you are for me moving forward. So, all right, let's get into some football talk here, Pete. We got a bunch of people online right now on YouTube and Facebook sending a bunch of stuff in. We do have a trivia question tonight that we will be giving away a Sunday Night Football with Bengal Jim and Friends T-shirt tonight. It's for the person who guesses Pete Johnson's favorite bourbon or whiskey. Just type it in, and we'll pull you on here later, and Pete will tell you if you're right or wrong. But you guys will go ahead and do that. But I'm going to go ahead and play. We're going to go ahead and play clip 1, Jamie. from 1979. Pete, we want you to see this, and we want to talk about this particular clip.
All right.
Play to run right at him nearly as well as he does the other things that I just mentioned.
First down, Cincinnati from the Eagle 50, and Johnson again. 10, 5, he's over, touchdown. He dropped it over. And the Bengals look like the Super Bowl champs for the first 2 or 3 minutes of this game.
Well, they're a dangerous passing team. They throw the ball extremely well. This is nothing more than a drop back pass. The linebackers get good depth. He looks downfield, throws the ball on the outside to Pete Johnson, 46. And Johnson weighs 259 pounds. So he's like.
Pete, that was just one play from a game in 1979 against the Eagles, the previous Super Bowl champs. Do you remember that game, that play at all?
Oh, yes, yeah, because I think we've been on strike, and we came back. I think we have missed 4 games, and that was the first game back.
Okay. So what's funny to me, so all these guys, we just got done talking about you scoring touchdowns. You're a touchdown machine, right? And that you're a good rusher. So that's a receiving touchdown by Pete. And if you see, he shook that linebacker. After he shook the linebacker, he trucks the DB. He just runs him over. And that defensive back, Pete, was Herm Edwards.
Got to make
number 46. Man, hey, all I got to say, if I'm Herm, I would have just said, just go, because I'm not getting. If I'm tackling your ass, Pete, I'm shoestring low on you.
But I got to tell you, oh, you have been stepped on, son. You would have had cliques everywhere. But, George Suffolk, he was the funniest thing, because he would say, why did you have to run everybody over for? You could have went another 30 yards as a coach. You got to make them respect you. And Woody told me the only way you do that is knock them on your ass. I'm just setting up the big run.
Good stuff. Oh, man. So if you guys have questions, go ahead and type them in the chat area here. But I've got a bunch of stuff. We could talk to Pete all night if he'd let us. But no, that was just cool kind of seeing. That was not a clip that was on YouTube or anything. It was a clip that, we had found on our old game footage that we saw. And I said, I had to show Pete that one. Not a rushing touchdown, on him receiving it, shaking a linebacker, and running over Herm Edwards, who just happened to be number 46 as well, Pete, which is pretty cool.
Hey, I've got a question for you, Pete. Today's game, you see more people, especially running backs out of the backfield, need to catch the ball. That really wasn't the case, in old-time football per se. What made you so good with your hands, out of the backfield? Obviously, they implemented that into the offense. Is that something you took pride in from, when you started football at a young age? Have you always had those hands? Can you tell us about
I think it's a gift you was always given. And I remember I had a chance to go to the Japan Bowl and to go to the Hula Bowl, and I chose the Senior Bowl because in the NFL they say you got to catch passes, and we didn't pass much at Ohio State. Mm-hmm. I had, I think, 3 passes, and they were both a touchdown. So I wanted to play where they're going to give me the ball, and Coach Schuler and his staff was a coach. I said, Coach, I need you guys to throw me the ball. So they did, and that's when the NFL, wait a minute, this guy got hands too. But, we played sandlot football. I was brought up in that, and you had to catch the ball.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Pete, it's funny too. Just, today's football, football's football in any era, but the fullback and the big running backs don't seem to be as prevalent as they were back in the 70s and 80s. We're hoping. Do you see a trend at some point that type of football will come back? Right now, spread the field.
I don't think it ever will, because you got your first down back, you got your second down, you got your third down. They got all these different plays. But when Kenny and I and Isaac and everyone on the field, when the offense was on the field, we was on the field. You didn't lead the field. We played football. You had to be able to be versatile and play. It's not someone to take your job.
Yeah, good point. Good point. So I've got one more clip. I really want to spend some time, Pete, talking about that 1981 season, a very special season for the organization, the awesome. City, and you too. So this is a little bit longer clip, but this is a little clip from 1981, Pete, we want you to see.
Mm-hmm.
And open running lanes for Charles Alexander, Jim Hargrove, Archie Griffin, and fullback Pete Johnson. Finesse is not a priority in the Bengals' running attack. It relies on power. And power is defined by the man that fills out the jersey of number 46. Inside this wrecking ball facade lurks a runner with all the options that Forrest Gregg admires.
Pete Johnson, he's going to make that tough yardage for you. When Pete gets rolling, he can intimidate the opponent by just his sheer power. I know that defensive backs, once he gets in the open, they don't like to tackle him. When you measure his size against theirs, I can certainly understand that.
As a runner and receiver, number 46 led all Bengals with 16 touchdowns. Pete Johnson, a plow horse among NFL thoroughbreds, met 1981 head-on and ran away with his first 1,000-yard season.
So Pete, you scored that last touchdown. You did the Isaac Curtis little over the
I got to tell you a funny story about Isaac Curtis with his assault spike. This is the next future running back at The Ohio State University right here, my grandson.
Yeah, baby. How old is he? How old are you, buddy?
I'm 11.
Okay. All right.
What's your name?
My name's Will.
Will, all right.
You playing ball up in the Columbus area?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey.
He play football and basketball. He been outside practicing while I'm in here with you guys.
Hey, keep working hard. Hey, you keep working hard. You listen to Grandpa. He's got you. You got it?
Yeah.
All right, man.
All right, buddy.
Go get on your brother.
So, Pete, I mean, it was real cool. You couldn't hear all the video clearly, but it was really neat to hear Forrest Gregg on that video talk about his love for you at running back. But talk about that season. I mean, you rushed for over 1,000 yards that year. It was your Pro Bowl year. But that was a special year for you and the organization in the city.
It was awesome. You know, we had Chris Collinsworth. We had some new guys, and everything just fit in. You know, I remember when we found out that the Super Bowl was going to be in Detroit, I told all the guys, you know, we're going to the Super Bowl this year because the Super Bowl should be in Detroit. And the guy we played, no one gave up. Ford, just awesome coach. You know, and he had our team just clicking, and, you know, the Bengals wasn't getting rid of nobody, and we were just a complete team.
Yeah, I mean, so what happened from 1980 to 1981? Because it was, again, you had a few new pieces there in 81. Forrest Gregg came in 1980, but, man, it was a big transformation from 1980 to 1981.
Well, Forrest was the guy teaching the guys how to win. You know, guy was so used to losing and complaining. You know, I never forget the first day Forrest stepped in the room and he was mad. You know, he started out screaming. He said, fellas, I'm going to tell you one thing. You think you can stick your head up my butt and get somewhere? You can't. So you got a problem. I don't need you telling me about the problem on this team. I already know. We're going to select captain, and you go to the captain, and they come to me. Oh, he was pissed. And I said, yay, we got a real coach finally. And he worked on stuff with us, you know. And we had those 4-12 season, but he was putting the right pieces together. And he went out and got the people to fill the gap, and it was awesome.
That's great. So that year, Pete, you had 1,077 rushing yards. You also had 320 yards receiving, which is probably more than most receivers in the league, to be honest, and then 16 touchdowns. So hell of a year. I mean, so from 80 to 81, Pete, what did your role change? You just get more touches? What happened?
No, I carried the ball pretty much. I think we put me a little bit more involved in the offense. Because, you know, you look at my carries per game, it wasn't even half of what the third string running back per game on other team was. You know, but we just had that offense together, and it had a lot to do with our pass offense. And, you know, Forrest and Lyndon Fonte, you know, they just got me, I think, a little bit more involved in the offense and gave Kenny a little bit more weapons. You know, Chris Collinsworth, Isaac Curtis, and then they brought in Billy Brooks, Dan Bass, and then Dan Ross, I think, made a big difference in that team, that tight end.
Yep, he was the real deal. He was the real deal. So, Jamie, real quick, if you could throw a few bourbons up here. Pete, let's see if somebody's guessed your favorite bourbon or whiskey right so far. We'll throw up 4 or 5 of them here real quick. See what we come up with.
That's a winner for one. We're for reserve.
I don't think Brandon knows what bourbon is because he guessed Coors Light. But yeah, Woodford to be the #1 pick. Sports strawberry.
Wood for reserve.
So, John Stanger.
Oh boy,
that's funny.
We also have some good questions here from the fans. Again, as Jimmy said earlier, if you're watching, please feel free to type in your question. And Jamie, if you don't mind going to a couple of those for Mr. answer.
It's a great question. This is Sports Strawberry Ice. What's Pete's thoughts on if the Bengals should have a Ring of Honor or Hall of Fame to remember the great Bengal greats like himself?
Oh, I think it would be awesome. I think that could be one of the best thing the Bengals could do. I think it would help get a lot more fans into the stands. I played for Miami a short period of time, and every year, they fly me, my family back. I get 3 games a season, and they have we're up in the press box, we're in the box seats, and it's zero money. I think the fan need to see the old guys that come in and get to talk to them. I go down for Bengals Appreciation Day, and the fans come out, and you can tell. And then you go sit in the station, and you got all these empty seats. And they did a Ring of Honor. I think they have a lot more former player buying season tickets, and they need to make a deal and fill those seats, and the fan get to talk. More fans going to come to the game.
And that's one thing we like about the show, and we appreciate you taking the time, Pete, to come on. And as Jimmy said, a lot of your teammates is just, reliving that history, seeing these old videos, because there's a lot of new fans, younger people that haven't experienced that. So we appreciate you taking the time to come on and talk about the insight. We like the behind the scenes stuff that you guys talk about, like your friendship with Gary Burley and things like that. So that's what's the one aspect of the show we really enjoy, is hearing some of those behind the scenes stories. And then where Jimmy pulls these old clips of you got gentlemen in action is pretty cool.
Oh, it's awesome. And so great about that team. We all still stay in contact with each other. And, everybody got their own little foundation they do. But, when someone calls, we're all there. And that's what makes it wonderful. Yeah. And at Christmas, we have a Christmas party in Cincinnati, and you'll be surprised at the guys that fly in for it. And this is just the Bengals players and the guys that come in for it. And then we get guys that didn't play with us come back for it. So, that's how you build in tradition. That's what tradition is all about.
Yeah. I think we would all be excited about that Ring of Honor. You guys deserve it. We've talked about it on the show. I don't know if you've seen the ranking that we've done, Pete. I think we did the top 15 or 16. It's needed. Most other NFL teams have done it. I think we'll see it, and the Bengals do it. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened yet, but it definitely has to be on the radar. And as I said, you guys certainly deserve it. Do we have another question, Jamie, from the fans?
Yes, we do. John Barker asks, who was your most memorable teammate and why?
He ain't gonna like my answer, all of them. And why? Because they're just a bunch of great guys. I thought we did stuff before practice. We did stuff after practice together. And, you just can't – Eddie Edwards, guys he probably forgot about. Wilson Whitley, Coy Bacon, Lamar Parrish, Marvin Cobb. It's just so many guys that we just – and, most of them we still stay in touch, and just awesome bunch of guys.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm not calling you Pete Johnson anymore. You're Petey Wheatshaw. But
Petey Wheatshaw.
Petey? Pete, we had you on before we started doing these Sunday night episodes, 12, 13 weeks ago, whatever it was, the post-draft party recap. And you talked about, and again, there's a lot of people listening right now that didn't catch that show. But talk about, I think you mentioned Jim LeClaire as one of the toughest guys you played against.
I ever played against, linebacker. Jim LeClaire is like running into a brick wall with a big coming diesel behind him. I feel, one of the best linebackers ever. And, it's so sad that he didn't get the recognition, and a lot of the other players, and I think one reason is because of the Bengals. Mike Brown, Paul Brown, he used to say, this is the family business. We don't have no other business like these other owners. And I think they took that as like they didn't like football. So I think they just had a dislike for the ownership of the Bengals and for the Bengals. Because we had great, great players. We have players that, guys that make all pro don't even have the stats that our players had. But yet and still, they'll be the one that push. And I think it have a lot to be with, the attitude of the owners. You can't just say the other team got a great team because they own another business. No, they put effort into that business. So what, they got other business, they making money, but they still dedicated professional owners and love football. And I think they took, they got angry about it. And I think they blocked a lot of our players from, getting the recognition we deserve.
Do you think that has anything to do with Kenny not being in the Hall of Fame?
I think it has to do with a lot of players on the Bengals not being in the Hall of Fame. It just, if they come where they're going to show Steelers players or the Bengals, no matter how bad we beat them, they're going to show Steelers players. Mm-hmm. In Houston, Oilers, even we beat them the majority of the time, but they're going to show them.
Yeah. Yeah, Pete, I think I'm with you, man. I think there's some truth to that. You got Ken Riley, Ken Anderson. The list goes on. I think still Max Montoya. You got Willie Anderson, a more recent Bengal player. Corey Dillon, all these guys. And to be honest, I think Chad Johnson as well. So we'll see, man. I hope that changes, man. I hope, I'm kind of hearing some word that there's a possibility that Ken Riley and Ken Anderson will be on the next ballot. And we are going to do whatever we can to help get those two in. Lamar Parrish as well is another guy that I think is legitimately should be in the Hall of Fame as well. So, Pete, you okay if we get one more question out of the room here before we let you go? I think there's some in here. Let's get one more.
Yeah, so I know we kind of talked about this on the draft recap, but since we've had some time to digest the full draft, Jungle Joe's asking Pete, what did you think of the Bengals draft this year?
I thought we did a good job. I thought we did a better job during the all season. It just got to wait and see now how the pieces fall together. Yeah. It's going to be a different year, and hopefully we have a season. But with the virus and all that other stuff going on, it's going to be rough, especially for these young players.
Yeah. Well, Pete, we're looking through so let everybody know what your favorite bourbon / whiskey is if you had a go-to. I know you're drinking Woodford because you threw a lot of them off just because you showed the Woodford at the beginning. But what is your go-to bourbon or whiskey?
Well, my favorite is Crown Royal. I put Crown Royal on the map. When I was in Cincinnati, I went to bars, and I did not have to pay for Crown because Crown Royal reimbursed them. No one was drinking Crown before me.
Yes, Crown.
What do you think about all these other flavors of Crown now? Are you a fan of those?
Oh, no. Nah. I still take the old school.
All right, Pete. We're right at our time, man. Petey Wheatshaw, one more toast before we let you go, big dog. It means a lot you coming on with us. We love you, man. You're a legend.
Bourbon, Crown.
There you go. Cheers. We'll see you, Petey.
Hey, figure something out on the tailgate, man. We can't go without tailgating.
We're working.
We got something going.
Help you out. Let me know.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, man. God bless you guys. Take care.
You too, buddy.
Take care, man.
He's double fisting bourbons. You love it.
Bourbon Crown Royal.
Yeah, that's great.
That Petey Wheatshaw, man. We need to bring some of those outfits to the tailgate. We need to bring that.
We will have a 70s day. I just have an afro that I'm going to bust out with a giant pick. I'm going to be Petey Wheatshaw. That's what I want to be for Halloween. So that may be a theme for sure.
And we do have, I think you shared some of the photos with Pete. Has been pleasant enough to stop by the tailgate on several occasions. Signed Cat Scratch Fever van of Craig's, and you never know who you run into. But when Pete stops by, it's always a lot of fun.
All right, so we want to stay on schedule here. So we want to
in the waiting room if you want to bring on.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and we're going to do the intro. Let's go ahead and do the intro.
First, okay, hold on.
So this is our fan of the week, and she's going to correct me if I go ahead, play it.
Ooh. Ooh. What? Oh yeah.
That's talented, man. That's a lot of work to do that. That's cool.
Yeah. So bring her on. Yeah. Okay. Make sure I'm pronouncing this right. Hey, guys. Hey, what's up? It's Yasmin?
It's Yasmin. Yeah.
Yes, we got it right. You got it right.
Yeah.
So Yasmin, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you joining us. Thanks for being here. So
thank you for having me.
Yeah, Jasmine came in this year and joined us at one of our tailgates this year, and she was able to put a pin in the Los Angeles area. That's where she's from. That's where she lives right now. And that was a beautiful day. So I'd love for you, if you're okay, talk about. I know you weren't feeling great all week, and I know you're starting to feel better today. So you look great. I'm glad you're feeling better too. Talk about your Bengal fandom. I mean, I think it's going to be an interesting story for fans to hear how you became a fan from Los Angeles, California.
Yeah. So, first of all, thank you guys for having me. I feel great today. And it's funny because I was a little bit nervous. I was like, I hope I remember how to talk because I've been self-isolated all week, but I think we're going to be okay. I am excited to tell this story. So basically, I grew up in Northern California and then I moved to Los Angeles for college. But when I was growing up, I grew up right around a bunch of 49ers fans, which is very ironic and hilarious when you connect it to the Bengals, and then Raiders fans. And my favorite color is orange. So there we go. We're going to start with that. So my favorite color is orange, and I would like the Bengals when I was little. Didn't really know anything about them yet, but I've always loved sports. And people would always make fun of me, like, you only like the Bengals because your favorite color is orange. And one year, my sister and her fiance, or husband now, decided to take me to a Raiders and Bengals game. And I figured out that Chad Johnson was going to be at, or Chad Ochocinco would be at Scott's. It's a restaurant in Oakland. And so I made a Bengals shirt and I was really excited about it. And I wanted to go there and meet him. So we went to Scott's where he was like having a lunch, and I don't know why I did this. I was 14 years old. Let's just leave it at that. But I wrote him a rap. I don't know why I wrote him a rap. I don't think I'm a rapper. I don't know where that came from, but I don't even know what it said, and it's so embarrassing to think about. But I was like, he needs to remember me. Like I need him to remember me, and I need a good story to be able to say that I'm a Bengals fan for this reason. So I wrote him this rap, and when he came over to my table and started talking to me, I had my Bengals shirt on. He was so awesome, and I was just telling him about how I love the Bengals and how when I grew up I wanted to work in sports and all this stuff. And my sister gave him a present, which was like a brain puzzle, and he couldn't figure it out, and he was getting all like anxious about it and all stressed out and frustrated. He couldn't figure it out. We were cracking up. So like it was a good time. And then I was like, okay, and I wrote you a rap. And he's like, you wrote me a rap? So I gave him the paper, and he like looked over at this guy, which I always think is hilarious. And he was like, hey, can you come rap this for us? And just gave this random man the rap and had this random man recite my rap out loud. And they all started cracking up and everybody was clapping, and it was just such a funny, weird moment. And he was like, I'm gonna keep this forever. Like, thanks so much. I was 14 years old. Like, you got to think about, like, as a young girl, you're the only Bengals fan and like nobody around you likes the Bengals, and you meet who at that time was like their biggest player. And had to share this moment with him. It was so special and awesome. And it's so embarrassing to think about now, but it was a fun time. And the next day we went to the game, and he had told me that he was like, I love your rap so much, I'm gonna play with it in my pocket. And I was like, okay, it's gonna be good luck. Like if you have my rap in your pocket, it's gonna be good luck. You guys are gonna beat the Raiders. They didn't end up winning. It was close, but they didn't end up winning. And so the next day we're on our way home from the game, and it's maybe 1 hour after the game, and I get a tweet on Twitter, a notification, and it's from him. And he had tweeted me and just said, cool rap, it's still in my pocket. And that was the coolest thing ever to a young Bengals fan. And so that like sealed my fate forever. After that, I was like, I'm a Bengals fan for life.
I don't know about you. I want to hear the rap. I want to know what the rap.
I wish that I could tell you guys, but one, I would be mortified, and two, I do not remember it at all. I was actually texting my sister yesterday. I'm like, do you remember it? She's like, no, I think that somewhere in the rap you said like where our seats were. I was like, okay.
We're gonna get a hold of Chad and see if he still has. We're gonna get a hold of Chad and see if he still has that for you. We're gonna check with Chad.
Yeah. Oh no, I hope he doesn't. I hope that he doesn't. So I that's how I became a Bengals fan. And being a Bengals fan in LA has been a little bit hard because everybody likes to make fun of me. But it's also really special. And I think that's what I love about being a Bengals fan is every game that I've gone to has been really special. So I wrote down some of the ones that have been my favorites, which was that one against the Raiders where I met Chad. And then my second Bengals game, I couldn't find anybody to go with me because I was the only Bengals fan around. And so I went by myself, and my sister's boyfriend took me to Oakland, which, as I'm sure a lot of people know, isn't like the safest place, but they took me to Oakland and they dropped me off at the game, and I went inside and I went to the game by myself and sat in the stands by myself in all my Bengals gear and just had the best time. And I was still in high school at that point. There was another game against the 49ers where somehow I ended up next to Ray Maluga's family, and they saw that I was one of the only Bengals fans around. And after the game, they were like, come over here with us. Like, you'll get to say hi to him. And that was really cool. There was another time that they were playing in Arizona, and I live maybe like 14 hours from Arizona, and I begged and begged and begged my dad to drive me to the game. And it was the day before the game. My dad picked up me and my brother, and we drove all the way to Arizona and went there for the game. It was awesome. So I've had a lot of really special experiences being a Bengals fan, and I think that that's why, even though a lot of people get so confused by it, it's so fun for me. I love it. I love being a Bengals fan.
That's great. So other than Chad, so who's another one of your favorite players? It doesn't have to be current; could be any player, former or current.
Yeah. So for a really long time, I don't really know why, but Dre Kirkpatrick, ever since he was drafted back in, I think it was 2009, he for some reason always just stood out to me. I love him. I always protect him with everything in me. People try to say bad stuff, and I'm like, don't come for him. He was always a player that I really loved. Also, Pac-Man Jones. I don't know why. I always go for guys on defense. I used to work for Barstool Sports, and I was on a radio show, and on that show for my college graduation, they got Carlos Dunlap to reach out and send like a congratulations on graduating college message to me, and that was really special too. I love Carlos. I think he just seems like he is such a like stand-up, awesome guy. So I don't know why I always pick people on defense, but I do love defensive players. But I'm really excited to see Joe Burrow play. Obviously, I'm sure we all are, but it's just really exciting to have like such a big player join the Bengals, because a lot of times I feel like people are always like, they act like there's nothing to talk about when it comes to the Bengals, and it's just because they don't know enough about the team. And I always tell them, I'm like, well, if you knew more about the team and you actually paid attention, you would understand why we feel this way, but it's fine. But once Joe Burrow got drafted, all my friends, like especially all my guy friends, constantly reach out to me and want to talk about it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I bet you guys want to be Bengals fans now. But yeah, obviously
so
love AJ Green.
Yeah.
That's
So
another one.
I think what's crazy going on right now with all the COVID stuff, and the season up in the air and everything. So were you planning on coming into town this year for a game or attending a game somewhat close to you this year?
Yeah, so every season, no matter what, as soon as the schedule comes out, I'm like, where can I go see them? And a lot of the times it is everywhere except Cincy, which, like you said, I was in Cincy last year, and that was my first time ever, which is crazy. It took me 15 years to get there, but it was a very awesome experience. So I was definitely planning on going back. My best friend and roommate is actually a Chargers fan, which is week 1. So we were planning on both going there, but now after they announced the like limited capacity and stuff, I don't know what's going to happen with all of that, but I was definitely planning on going there. And then I was also planning on going to see them in Philly against the Eagles, and then in Houston against the Texans. So I always find other games, but as far as Cincy, the main one I had this year was week 1, but we'll see. Hopefully I'll get to go for a game. I don't know which one yet, but I'm open to all of them.
Yeah, it was fun last year when you came in and you joined us at the tailgate. You were so giddy, smile ear to ear. You were so excited to be in town for the game. So it was so obvious. So we appreciate you coming on. It means a lot, Yasmin. It's awesome, and personality is awesome, and I love seeing the passion around Bengals football in Los Angeles. Always supporting the colors when you go out, I'm sure. But we appreciate having you on tonight.
Thank you guys so much for having me, and hopefully I'll see you this season at a game.
Absolutely, and we're calling Chad. We're getting that wrap. We're going to put it online.
Oh no! I'll have to see it first.
Okay, we would never do that to you. We'd never do that to you. Thank you, Yasmin. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. How about that?
She was so excited. It's awesome.
Great story for her first game. If you remember back in the day, and kind of as Chad's career was winding down, every like away city he'd go to, he'd announce it on Twitter, and fans would like meet him at dinner, which could have been, I didn't have a chance to ask her, but Chad did that for like the last 2 years of his career. He'd like arrive in Cleveland on Saturday whenever the plane arrived, like at 4:00, and then he'd say, meet me at Joe's Steakhouse at 6. And he'd buy dinner for a bunch of Bengals fans. We hear it. We had this discussion on several shows. We had this question about Chad, what role could he be? And just what Yasmin said. I mean, he is a fan favorite, the face of the franchise, and beloved by Bengals fans, everywhere. I think he brought a lot of recognition to the Bengals, and just exciting. I mean, from the whole antics to the name change. I mean, he's Mr. Bengal, I guess, if you had to call one out.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's just still doing things that are just amazingly awesome. Years ago, my oldest son's 29. He was in high school at the time. Him and his buddies were at one of the local malls. Chad Johnson just went out to a mall and was looking for kids to kind of hang, kind of get talked to. He bought them all PlayStations and video games. So he went to the mall, was buying them PlayStations and video games. Just a caring, outgoing guy. Just loves helping people out. But that's a really cool thing that Chad does.
No, he does a lot. And there's a lot of Bengals who do a lot for the community, and Chad was great, and that was cool to have Yasmin on. She was definitely excited, just mentioning the word Bengals and her story. And it's different living on the left coast. We're right here in Bengal country per se, and take advantage of a lot of the cool things we get to do. So when a fan gets to come to town for the first time and experience Paul Brown Stadium and 50,000 Bengals fans as opposed to 2,000 at an away game, it's definitely a different experience. So we appreciate Yasmin coming on and sharing her story. And as you mentioned, we got to get a hold of Chad and find that rap. Go back and find that old tweet. I'm sure there's a way back to go into history and find that. We need to dig the archives and see what we can find.
So is Jamie still with us? Yes, he is. So let's go. Is Is Tom Justin in the room right now? Tom, what's up, buddy?
Evening, Jimmy. How are you?
Good, man. Good. So let's get to our history segment here. So moving forward, Tom Justin, who was on our show last month, and him and I geek out for hours talking Bengals football and Bengals history. So Tom's going to be part of this history segment moving forward. So Tom and I are going to be talking about that 1990 season. And we're going to play a quick video clip here. And then Tom and I will kind of get into a little history 101 here.
With a brutal and balanced attack, the aggressive defense and finely tuned offense came out smoking against the Oilers. And with big play burst from both units, the Bengals scored 7 times in their first 8 possessions.
Looks, fires it way upfield, intercepted it by Fulcher. He's to the 50, down to the 45, to the 40, the 35, still on his feet at the 30, all the way down to the 20 and out of bounds at about the 16-yard line.
Let's keep it up now. Let's keep it up. Maintain that intensity now. Let's go.
The intensity was red hot as Boomer Esiason caught fire and led the team in rushing. The team that Paul Brown built and Sam Weiss guided had crossed the threshold to playoff perfection as they buried Houston 41-14. They were a hard-nosed and innovative offense. They were a gutsy and opportunistic defense. And in 1990, the Cincinnati Bengals came roaring back.
So, Tom, there was a lot of clips we could have put out there, but I had to put that specific clip of the 1990 season. That was the last time the Bengals won a playoff game, beating the Oilers 41-14. So what do you remember about that season, Tom?
You know, what you remember about that season is with any season, the off season that starts it. And it didn't start off so well. Max Montoya left for LA in free agency. Eric Thomas hurt his knee, I think, in a playing basketball, and missed 90% of the season. I don't think he came back to like week 16 or maybe even that playoff game against the Oilers. David Fulcher got hurt during that season. He had a all-pro season that year. So they had to come back. They had all the tools and talent from the Super Bowl team, minus Icky still coming back, and he came back during the season from his injury early in '89. But they had a lot to overcome. But it was probably Sam Weich's best coaching job. And even though he didn't win a passing championship like he did in '88 and '89, it might have been Boomer's best year as quarterback.
Yeah, it's crazy when you said the start of the season. So as the season started, what was crazy about that, the Reds were in the playoffs. So the first 5 games of that year were on the road. I mean, as a coach going into that offseason, then going to start the season, I think the first 5 games were on the road. Tough start.
They had 5 games on the road. I think the home opener was the opening game that year was against the Jets. Bruce Coslet's first game.
Bruce Coslet. That's right.
But the schedule was brutal. It was awful. That was the year that they had to go. They played Monday Night Football in Seattle, and then the following Sunday had to play the Rams. So they just stayed out there. And to add insult to injury, that was when Sam had his problem with the locker room, letting female reporters in. Pete Rozelle was going to summon him to New York to go over it, and Paul Brown got on the phone, and I wasn't privy to the conversation. I would love to hear a recording of it, but let Pete know that you don't do that to a team while they're preparing to play. And I remember reading the schedule makers that year told the Bengals that that's probably the most difficult schedule in the league, and certainly the most difficult part of any season. But tough luck, schedule makers never have done us any favors.
It's funny because that year as well, obviously they won the AFC Central champs at 9-7. They won. It was a 3-way tie between them, the Oilers, and the Steelers, and they all finished 3-1. Everybody beat up on the Cleveland Browns that year, but everybody was 3-1. So the Bengals won that head-to-head with those guys, and I think the Steelers did not make the playoffs. The Bengals played the Oilers in Week 15 and thumped them. They blew them out, 40-20 in that last, Week 15, and then that got them the home field advantage in the playoffs against the Oilers again, where they beat them up in the playoffs.
We played and beat the Browns at Riverfront, and then right after the game, everybody took off to go home because on Sunday Night Football, the Steelers were at the Oilers, and we needed the Oilers to win to get us in and win us the division, which was nice of them to do, so they could come up 7 days later and get their butts kicked. But that team had a lot to overcome that year. They lost Montoya. Eric Thomas was playing at a Pro Bowl level as a corner, and then they lost him for the year. They lost David Fulcher during the season. Bruce Reimers broke his foot at one point and then got injured again at the end of the year during the playoff game against Houston. So did Anthony. So that last game against the Raiders, they played with no offensive line. Boomer was horribly sick the night before, didn't sleep, got the flu, and said it had not been a playoff game, he wouldn't have played. They overcame a lot. Mike Brown, right before the season started, because E.T. was injured and they were having some depth problems at cornerback, went out and got Carl Carter and traded for, and don't throw anything at your pad, Jimmy, traded for Rod Jones.
Rod Toast Jones.
To Tampa for Rod Jones, which, Rod was a really good corner when he was a backup, which was how he was used that first year in 1990. It was probably his highlight, giving some depth and athleticism. It was the next year when they moved him up to starter that it kind of fell apart. But the front office did a lot of little things to adjust. Well, actually, big things to adjust that roster. Sam did a really good job coaching him, and Boomer did a fantastic job quarterbacking him. They had some ruts due to injury during the year. They lost 2 games in a row at home at one point. Lost to Atlanta and New Orleans at home. Had a little bit of trouble standing the run, but they got everything out of that season that they possibly could. They weren't blowing teams out like they were 2 years prior, as Solomon Wilcots just said not too long ago. But they got the job done, and really, they darn near beat the Raiders in L.A.
Yes, talk about that game a little bit. And Tom, every week, I think you've been watching, we tie in some sort of memorabilia. So this was the game day program to that game out in Los Angeles as they played the Raiders and lost 20-10, as you said earlier. I mean, a very large chunk of the team was either hurt or definitely sick, and some of them still playing.
The entire left side of the line was hurt. Munoz couldn't play. Reimers couldn't play. They had Kirk Strafford, who was 265 pounds when he was here with the Bengals. He ended up going to the 49ers in free agency a few years later and miraculously put on like 40 or 50 pounds in one offseason. I know one football executive who I knew at the time just shook his head and said, "Football chemistry, what do you want to say?"
Yeah.
But they were playing Kirk Strafford, who Boomer was making fun of all week because he was from Montana. He said, he said, "We got a guy I barely know. He comes in wearing flannel shirts to the meetings talking about eating tree bark when he goes camping." And, now he's going to play left tackle instead of Anthony Munoz. But they did that. Jim McNally did something really unique that game because he knew talent-wise they just couldn't match up with the Raiders. He would, on passing plays, he would have the line run block. Just charge right at him and hopefully give Boomer another second or two to find a receiver or just throw the ball away. Because he said Howie Long in about the third quarter shook his head and looked at Bruce Kazerski and said, "You guys are all screwed up. You're so screwed up, you're screwing us up." So
it's funny. That game, that is the Bo Jackson game, right? Where Kevin Walker tracked him down and that's where his hip injury came in. And that's, hey, 30 years later, we're still dealing with the curse of Bo Jackson. So that was the game that pretty much ended Bo's career.
Yeah, he never came back from that. And really, the Bengals played a great defensive game that day. I think they had 5 turnovers. And had they been able to go ahead and pull that one out, We turned the ball over late, driving to tie, and the Raiders got the ball back and ended up sealing the win. We'd have gone to Buffalo, and we had the Bills' number. And we'd have gotten Munoz back. We'd have probably gotten Reimers back. And Buffalo couldn't beat those Bengal teams in the late 80s, early 90s.
That's right.
So
that's right. Well, brother, I think that's a great season. The last playoff win the Bengals Cincinnati has had, that Raiders game. But we're hoping, Tom, obviously you and I are on the same page with this. Let's get another playoff win this year. Let's get the thing rolling again, buddy.
One's not enough. Let's get like 4 and bring a big trophy back.
Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah. Well, guys, that's it for History 101. Tom, appreciate you joining us. That's great input. We really appreciate you being part of this, buddy.
Good night, guys.
All right.
Looked like you enjoyed the bourbon with Pete.
Yeah. We'll see you, buddy. Day. Thanks again.
Tom, appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom.
Man, that 90 season, man, I remember that season. I was about 19, 20 years old, man. I just remember watching that Oilers. We beat them in week 15, just smoked them, and got to play them again the first game in the playoffs like 2 weeks later. Smoked them again, and I really thought we were going to go out to Los Angeles and win. With all those injuries and half the line being sick and couldn't even play, Munoz couldn't play. We didn't have a chance in hell, but it was close. It was 20-10. It was closer than that late in the game. So,
who was that quarterback for Houston? I was trying to read the name on the jersey there. He had
you know what? I don't know. I could find that out. I didn't look either, but
obviously we saw the full rock interception. We saw the fumble that he had. He had a bad day at the office.
Yeah, it is funny though. My second favorite uniforms of all time, behind the Bengals, is that old Houston Oilers uniforms. I do like those unis. So no, guys, appreciate another good history segment. Tom does a good job with us on that. It's fun making him part of that project. Our history segment moving forward with us. So him and I kind of talked throughout the week multiple times, coming up with different things to talk on. So good stuff. So I think we're down now to our question of the week, Jamie.
Yes, sir. Question of the week. Now that the Bengals have released the guidelines for attending games, will you be attending or will you be watching from home? So we're looking for your comments in the chat. Let's start with James this week. James, what do you think?
Personally, yes. I don't know. This is going to games, seeing friends, seeing fellow fans is, something that I look forward to every fall or anytime there's a Bengals get together. So if there's an opportunity, yes. We talked about it earlier. Some of the earlier shows, some of the road trips that we talked about, wanting to attend. There's still a few stadiums on the bucket list that we're playing this year. So the short answer is yes. Hopefully the numbers are a little bit bigger than what they're saying now, allowing fans in. Whatever restrictions or safety protocols are going to put in place, do it and support the team. So the long answer is yes, and look forward to the opportunity to see Mr. Burrow play in a Bengals uniform in person.
Yeah.
Are you, Jimmy?
Yeah, dude, if there's fans in the stands, there will be some way, somehow, I will get my ass in that stadium. I'm excited about the season to get to see the boys play and get to see Burrow play and all the new pieces they've added in the offseason. If there's fans in the stands, I will somehow, some way find myself in that stadium. Even if I have to sneak in, just to let you know, I will be in that stadium. What about you, Jamie? Where's your head at on that?
Unfortunately, guys, it's not looking good for me. Being up here in Canada, there's talk, at least up here by our government, that the border is going to be closed at the very least till January. So they're actually saying up to a year, the border between Canada and the U.S. only being open for essential travel. Unfortunately, I feel this is essential travel. I don't think my government's going to do it, unfortunately. But it's going to be probably a year before I get to see Joe Burrow live and party with Bengal Jim and my friends down at the tailgate. But it's the way it goes, man. Not much I can do about it unless you can sneak me over somehow. I just don't have to worry about getting back. That's the problem. So
I know
last week was the perfect opportunity. I just went into Canadian waters just to mess with the system a little bit, and if I get some Ontario provincial police chasing us. But
I will tell you this, guys: if there is any possible way I can get down, I mean, I am the chairperson of the Marissa Contepelli fan club, so maybe there's maybe there's some way to get me deemed as travel to come down. But if I can get there, I'll be there. But it's not looking good. Let's see what the chat.
Yeah, throw them up.
Yeah, so let's see here. So Jungle Joe says attending sports with strawberry ice as season ticket holder. I'm opting in. Josh says don't know yet. Depends where I get moved to. That may be an Army thing here. Brandon.
No, actually,
No?
stop you there, Nate. So I think Josh and I are in the same boat. So they've already made the announcement. The first 8 rows. I'm assuming that's what Josh is talking about. The first 8 rows are being
Yeah. Good call. That's
cordoned
right.
off.
Yeah. So, if Josh gets moved up to the nosebleeds, maybe he opts to watch from home.
Exactly.
Brandon says attending. Let's see. Brandon Cummings says attending. John says the real question is, will you be able to go? I bought tickets to Pittsburgh. I fully expect to be cut. That's a good point for the away games anyway. Paul says watch from home. Ben says if there's a season, I work on the Who Dey hype team, so hopefully we can be there here on the fans. Laura says I definitely love to go to the game, just have to get someone else to go, have to be there for week 1.
I'm with you, Laura.
My buddy Dave up here in Canada says I just want to come to the tailgate. So of course he's in the same boat as me. Let's see. Oh, Zach says I snuck into the freezer bowl. So
Hell yeah, Zach.
There is a way in.
There's always a way.
John's making fun of the CFL here. Inside word the CFL will be delayed until October. No one cares about the CFL, even me. I'm Canadian. Taylor says I'm going. Josh says yes. Yeah. Zach says, why don't they put up plexiglass like the NHL? So the interesting thing about the NHL, guys, I'm not sure if you're following other sports. I'm a big hockey fan too. I think that's kind of part of being Canadian. So the NHL model won't work in the NFL model, but the NHL model is they pick 2 hub cities, and they've actually picked 2 Canadian cities just because of the numbers that are happening right now in the U.S. So all of the teams that have qualified for this quote unquote playoffs, the Western teams, so like your Vegas, your San Jose's, your teams like that, will be playing in Edmonton, Alberta, and then your Eastern Conference teams will be playing up in Toronto. So they have, 7 or I don't know, probably 8 to 12 hotels all blocked off in each city, and then everyone's basically in this bubble for the duration of the playoffs. So I think all the leagues will be watching the NHL to see how this plays out, but you can't do that with NFL. I mean, NFL, the amount of players and personnel and coaching staff, there's absolutely no way you can do this in a hub city. There's just no way.
It's interesting. I mean, to our point, James and I were talking earlier as well. I mean, guys, I hope there's a limit. And, whatever Baltimore said last week, 14,000 limit in theirs. Who knows what it's going to be in Cincinnati. Let's hope that happens, because there's still a real possibility if things get worse here with the COVID that there's not going to be fans in the stands, and that's a possibility. So it's a crazy discussion. If we would have thought anything about this 10 years ago, that couldn't even enter our mind that something like this would be happening right now. But I think everybody's excited about the season, excited about Joe Burrow and all the new pieces they put in place. People will be doing one of 2 things. They're going to be at the stadium watching, or they're going to be watching it on TV. That's for sure. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out.
I don't want to speak for you guys, but I assume we feel the same way as long as there's football, right? I mean, I want football. I want to be there just as much as you guys do. You guys obviously have a better opportunity to be there than I do, but as long as there's football, I'm happy. What about you guys?
I think if you look at the money machine that the NFL is, football is going to happen, whether it's fall, spring, it's going to happen. The next question is, will fans be in? Like you said earlier, Jamie, they can't go to the bubble city and do games just because the amount of people that are involved in the NFL organization and travel and all that. So, could it get pushed back to spring? Yes. Could it happen this fall? Yes. I think it's an ever-changing dynamic. We've seen some shoes drop with college football, conferences like the Big Ten saying only conference games are allowed. Obviously, I don't think that's going to work in the NFL setting. So it'll be interesting to see, just think positive, worst case scenario. stay tuned. We've got some different ideas as far as the tailgate goes, and just stay up to date on the ever-changing fluid environment that we're dealing with now. Just kind of end my part. Hopefully everybody's staying safe and doing well, and I just continue to think positive, and as many said that tuned in, they want to be there. Hopefully we will be there, and just going to stay positive until the final decision is made.
Yep. Let's go ahead and just closing comments. And Jamie, you want to go ahead and start off with our closing comments on this?
Yeah. So, I think just touching on this week's question, there's no doubt. I think everyone who's a Bengals fan who has access to go to the games, even like Yasmin, our fan, planning to fly in for that week 1 game, everyone wants to be there. If we can't be there, I hope there's football. I worry about stuff like Philip Rivers brought up. I believe what happens if you get to the Super Bowl and somebody gets sick. Do you go ahead and play? And the answer from the NFL and the NFLPA was yeah. You roll with the game. You got to have depth. I think depth will be more important this year than any year that we've seen in the NFL. You need somebody who can step up and play for your first team offense or defense if unfortunately somebody gets sick. So anyway, I think my closing thoughts would be, watch the numbers down in the States. I worry about you guys. You're good friends of mine down there and all the people we met at the tailgate, but just hopefully things turn around, the numbers start improving, and not only the season, but just everyone's, stays healthy and no one has to suffer. So,
Jamie or James?
Yeah, I kind of gave my end of the show thoughts, but just to recap and stay positive. Hopefully it happens. I think all of us and a lot of NFL fans hate preseason games. We're going to see that cut down this year. Of all years, I hate that it's cut down just simply for the reps and the extra work that Joe Burrow may potentially need to get accustomed to the new players, receivers, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, I'm going to think positive, and hopefully we'll all be inside Paul Brown Stadium cheering on the boys.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, there's so much information out there. It's hard for people to understand and believe. They don't know what to believe sometimes. One of the things that was interesting to me, the NFL talking about the jersey exchanges after the game. So these guys are 3 hours tackling, button helmets, and hitting each other, but they can't exchange a jersey. I don't know. Some of this stuff I know it just doesn't make sense to me. It's crazy. Hopefully stuff starts to get better, but looking forward to the season regardless. Hopefully we play. So kind of closing here for me, just kind of recap a couple things. The Ken Anderson jersey over my left shoulder here is back on the drawing for next Sunday night's show, which we will have Jeff Hobson from the Cincinnati Bengals on with us. And let me tell you something. Let's talk about some Bengal history. Jeff Hobson has some history that we can talk about, but we're going to specifically talk about one of the agenda topics I asked him that we need to hit on is help us all understand the Hall of Fame balloting and how it works and the potential for Ken Riley and Ken Anderson being on the next ballot. So that will be one of the subjects we talk about next week with Jeff Hobson. But that Ken Anderson jersey, if you've already donated, you don't have to donate again. Your name is already on that list. Thanks again, Brent Cole, for turning that jersey back to us so we can raise some more money for the Ken Anderson Alliance. We raised over $1,700 last round. It's unbelievable. So go to the Ken Anderson Alliance. Go ahead and make your donation. A minimum of 5. We're asking hopefully you can do 14 for in honor of Kenny's number 14 jersey. And make sure you do hashtag Bengal Jim in the comment section when you donate. And we'll do another drawing again next week for the jersey. We'll give you guys updates throughout the week on where we're at on the donations. Also, the tailgate store is up and running. I just got a call from Cook's Thursday. So the one thing that is on there now is the mask. So it's kind of weird. My head's on this and I'm wearing the damn thing, but so stay safe, wear your mask. If you don't have a Bengal Jim mask, tailgate mask, you can get one anywhere, but those masks are on there as well. We do have a new shirt that we'll be putting up there, new design as well. That's the Sunday Night Football with Bengal Jim and Friends shirt there as well with our koozies. Stay safe, everybody. Look forward to seeing everybody again next week, and thank you so much for being part of the show, and we will see everybody next week. Hoo day, guys.
Hey, Jimmy, before we leave, I just want to say one thing. This is our 10th show, as you mentioned. Just want to put this up as a reminder. We are here every Sunday, 8 o'clock. We look forward to doing this with you guys every week. So feel free to share the link with fellow Bengals fans. If you know a Bengals fan who would enjoy watching the show, you can actually tag them right now so they get a notification. But we are live every Sunday night from 8 till 9-ish. And we're talking to some OG Bengal legends. We're showcasing fans of the week. We got Jimmy bringing up some old clips, doing the history segment. A lot of fun. So the more the merrier, guys. So if you're you know some Bengals fans who would enjoy watching this, we have a really great following of people that watch live. We do really well in the replays as well. So it's been a lot of fun doing it. So here's the 10 more episodes, guys.
Yep, absolutely.
Looking forward to 10 more.
Hey, Jeff Hobson next week is isn't going to be a normal interview Jeff Hobson's used to, guys. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So hopefully you can join us.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.